I know we all heard when we was growing up, you should have been a lawyer with the way you like to argue, with the way you be talking yourself out of trouble. You should have been a lawyer. But could you talk yourself out of not dying from a serial killer? No. Well, Lisa Mcvey could and did. And before we get into that, I do have one thing to do. Hey friend, how are you? How you doing? I know it's been a little bit, but I'm trying. But the phone works both ways, Bessie. You could be calling me too, okay? You could be calling me too. And really, if you wanted to see me, you'd be following me on my TikTok, my Twitter, or my Instagram. I post daily there, especially on my Instagram. If you want to be a part of the creative process and have a pick on what story you hear next, I suggest you follow me there because I do a lot of polls. Also, please do not forget to like the video and girl, they, boy. I'm not accepting any of your resentment because I talk too much. This is a give and take relationship. I give you content, you take it, and you're supposed to give me feedback in the comments. Give me your opinion in the comments. Where is your opinion? In the comments. If you're not commenting, you're not what? Speaking. Closed mouth cannot get fed, right? And please do not forget to subscribe and put on bell notifications because we all know what type of girly I am. Sporadic AF. And now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get on to the video. I'm going to be doing this a little bit differently. I'm going to be telling this like it's a story, because I feel like it's a little bit more interesting that way. So, the year is 1984, and 17-year-old Lisa Mcvey is just leaving her job at the Krispy Kreme donut shop. It's 2 a.m., and as a 17-year-old, Lisa hadn't graduated high school yet, so she would never work this type of shift, but this was the day she decided to do a double. And instead of riding her bike straight home, which is what she always did, she decided to take a little bit of a detour. Anything to keep her from her house, because she knew as soon as she got home, this was the day that she was going to die. This day was the day that Lisa had decided to end her own life. She had already written her suicide note, quoting years of abuse to be the main cause of this future tragedy. See, Lisa had anything but a normal, happy life. She had seen and experienced the worst that life had to offer before most. The earliest memory Lisa has of her childhood is at 2 being abused by her mother and then jumping foster home to foster home until the age of 7. Well, Lisa and her twin sister. So around 8, Lisa and her sister were placed back with her drug-addicted, alcoholic mother who would disappear for months at a time, leaving them without food. Lisa and her twin sister had no choice but to follow her mother into homeless camps, cars, and abandoned buildings with leaky roofs and drug addicts. You know what I'm talking about, bandos. Lisa and her identical twin sister endured this for years before they were forced to live and take care of their grandmother at the age of 13. You would have thought that this was a dream come true for Lisa. Yeah, she had to help her elderly grandmother out, but she got her own room. She got a stable home. She got to go to school and have clothes and food. But when she went to live with her grandmother, the abuse didn't stop for Lisa. It became worse. Her grandmother's 50-year-old boyfriend became obsessed with her, and her grandmother did nothing to protect her. In fact, one day, her grandmother came to her and told her that her own boyfriend was interested in 13, almost 14-year-old Lisa. And he was going to teach her how to please a man. She, at the time, again, 13, almost 14, didn't understand what he meant. And from that moment, she was physically and emotionally abused every single day. He swore her to secrecy. He told her that if she opened her mouth and told anybody that he would kill her and her identical sister. He would hold a gun to her head at night and threaten to pull the trigger and enjoy watching her cry. Lisa Mcvey's family allegedly knew of the abuse, but they told her she should be grateful. She had her own room It was a clean house. There was food. There was water. There was a roof. But how could you be grateful for a room when there was no safety, no privacy, and no peace? To make matters worse, the grandmother boyfriend began calling Lisa his girlfriend. And at this point, he had started talking about having a baby and having a family. And if that happened, Lisa was never getting away. And so she felt like her only way out was to die. 4 years of abuse had left Lisa tired, and she wrote a note saying that she felt betrayed and she felt disgusted. She felt like she was a nobody, and she was tired of living and tired of being hurt. She had nobody to trust, nobody to tell, and nobody to save her. So this was her way of saving herself. And the only satisfaction she would be getting from doing this was that she was going to use the same gun that her grandmother's boyfriend held to her head. As Lisa got closer to home, with all of this weighing on her mind, she passed a church parking lot, which she had passed a million times, but this time she saw a car parked. It was memorable because, again, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Who's going to be at the church at 2 a.m.? It's weird. She's lost in her thought when a man jumped out of the darkness and grabbed her by the back of her neck. He drags her off of her bike, screaming. She's struggling. She's kicking loudly. And he literally puts a gun to her temple and says,
"Shut up or I'll kill you."
And she knows that if she makes a sound, that's what he's going to do. He drags her to the same car that she had passed in the church parking lot. The only car in the church parking lot. And it was like something in that moment clicked for Lisa. It was like God telling her, "Not on my watch." And that's what she said. "I'll do whatever you want. Just don't kill me." So the man, he tied Lisa up in the car. He blindfolded her and gagged her and had her naked. Her newfounded realization for wanting to live made her search for any clue that could possibly help her. And that's when she realized that her blindfold wasn't quite tight enough. And that if she looked just directly from the bottom, that she could kind of see out of it. And that's when she saw the white seats and she saw red carpet. And then she kind of instinctively tried to tilt her head to see anything more. And she read out the word Magnum detailed across the dashboard. And you know what? Lisa had watched a lot of true crime shows, and she decided that she was going to try to remember every single thing that she watched and put it to use so that she could survive. She began counting the minutes it took to get from the church to the destination so she could tell people what area to look at. And she was able to gauge which direction that they were going by that little sliver in her blindfold. While walking to his place, she would count her steps from the car to the door. She was just trying to do any and everything to gather as much information as she could for the police. And when Lisa got to this man's house, he repeatedly murdered her and tortured her and abused her, but he never took off her blindfold. But even as he did all of these things and she endured it, she would touch his face to fill the outline so that maybe she could identify him in the future if she got out alive. And as she was touching his face and she was trying to disconnect her body from what was going on, she made the realization that he had a very small mustache right above his lip. And his nose was very snubby and small. After hours, Lisa begged the man, "Please, let me use your restroom." And for some reason, I guess because she was cooperating, he let her. While she's in the bathroom, she started picking things up, touching things, putting her DNA, her fingerprints on anything she could think of. Because she said, if I don't get out of this alive, they're going to find my DNA in this bathroom. Hours after her abduction, the man is watching TV and she hears the local news come on and they're covering her disappearance. And it was like hearing the fact that she was actually kidnapped, that she was actually a missing person, caused Lisa to panic. She started screaming and crying. What if this solidified her death? And it was like during this panic, the man threatened her.
If you scream one more time, I'll be forced to put a bullet in your head. Stop crying.
That's when Lisa realized that her abductor had used the word forced, as if he didn't want to kill her. As if she maybe tried to connect with him in some way, he wouldn't kill her. So in an effort to bond, just like she had seen a million times on any crime show, she began to ask him questions. She needed to find something to relate to him. She knew that people like this didn't see their victims as real people. And she had to make him see her as a person. He had to get him to see that she was a compassionate person, that what he was doing wasn't right. But the man was hesitant to buy into what she was saying. To throw her off, he told her that he had done this to multiple women, that he had killed multiple women, and that she was just going to be next on his list. And she knew that if she panicked, if she cried, if she begged, that might trigger whatever animalistic thing in him that was making him do this. So instead, calm, unexpected to him, really, she said, "Why would you do the same thing to me?" And this generally surprised him. He replied that he wanted to get back at women in general, so that's why he was doing this. He had had a few bad breakups, and he just felt like all women were evil and they didn't care about men. They didn't care about anybody but themselves. And at this moment, Lisa knew that this was the opening that she was waiting and praying to God for. She said that she wasn't like that. She offered to be his secret girlfriend and that she would never tell anybody about how they met, to gain his sympathy, because he said that he felt like women didn't care about men. Lisa told him a lie about being her father's only caregiver and that he needed her help and that he was very ill and that he had nobody else but her. And this information, even though it wasn't true, worked. It made him see her as a compassionate human being rather than an object to be abused. And this gambling of hers paid off, because after 26 hours of physical and emotional torture and abuse, he bundled a Lisa Mcvey back into his Dodge Magnum and asked her where she lived. First, the man made a stop at the gas station, then at an ATM, and finally he ordered Lisa to get out of the car. He apologized to her and he told her that he didn't kill her because of her father, because she needed to take care of her father and promised to always take care of him. And then he told her to wait 5 minutes before taking off the blindfold. She waited the 5 minutes, and when she pulled the blindfold off her eyes and she looked up and she saw a big oak tree, and then she looked around and she realized that he had dropped her off at a business right but near her grandmother's house. As she's looking around and she's looking at this oak tree, Lisa felt like it was a sign that her life could be anew and something better was out there for her. So she just took off running to her grandmother's house, afraid that he would come back and that he would change his mind. She made it home at 4:30 p.m. the next day. Frantic, crying, screaming, "We need to call the police. We need to call the police. This man kidnapped me. He held me hostage." But instead of her grandmother believing her, her grandmother's boyfriend called her a liar. He snatched her up and he began beating her for hours and interrogating her and saying, "You were
cheating on me. You were with somebody. You tried to run away. It didn't work, did it? Tell me the truth."
But Lisa just kept saying, "I wasn't cheating on you. I was kidnapped. This man abused me." And her grandmother's boyfriend just wouldn't believe her. After days of physical torture, her grandmother finally called the police, but only to inform them that Lisa was a runaway and that she was lying about being kidnapped. But it didn't matter that they didn't believe Lisa. It didn't matter that her grandmother said that Lisa was lying and that Lisa was a runaway. Lisa was a minor. And that meant that the police had to do a follow-up to close out her investigation. So her grandmother had no choice but to take Lisa to the police station and let them do the follow-up interview. And it was there that Lisa told her story to a detective, and they didn't believe her either. But Lisa had endured 26 hours of torture by a potential, maybe serial killer. She doesn't know if this man was lying or not. She's been beaten for days by her grandmother's boyfriend. She's been told that she's a liar by her grandmother. She's endured so much in her life, and she is not giving up that easy. She told that detective, because this girl's got the biggest cojones I've ever seen in my entire life, that she wanted to speak to somebody more intelligent. Crazy enough, that worked. And the next day, she spoke to Sergeant Larry Pickerton in the sex crimes unit. And after she told him her story, he believed every word and he called the FBI immediately. But the problem was Lisa didn't see where this man's house was. She was blindfolded. She didn't even see his face, remember? She just felt on him and knew he had a mustache and a snubby nose. But the police still chose to investigate. And it was days after telling her story, while they were investigating, trying to get out of this dead end, Lisa was watching the local news and she saw the story of a woman who had died near the beach. And after hearing the details of what happened to this woman, it was like chills ran down her spine. Lisa runs to the phone and she calls up Sergeant Larry, and she knows in her heart of hearts, deep in her soul, that this is the same man that tried to kill her, that kidnapped her and only let her go for her sick father. Pickerton contacts Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. He got her in touch with the deputies who were investigating the murders so that she could talk to them. And another few days go past, and Larry gets this idea that maybe if Lisa is hypnotized, it will bring back more, it will trigger more memories for her, and she'll remember some small, minute detail that will help them find this man. But Lisa's underage and she needs her parents' permission. Her grandmother's boyfriend refuses, and so her grandmother refuses. And that's when Larry starts to get suspicious, because this is weird. If this was your granddaughter, wouldn't you do anything to make sure that the person who hurt her was locked up? And he knows something just isn't right. He feels it. He's been doing this for a long time. So he invites Lisa to sit down with him at the police station and just talk. And it truly does not take that many questions for Mr. Pinkerton or Sergeant Pinkerton to realize that Lisa is being abused. And Lisa admits it herself. Larry believes her, and he sends police to her grandmother's house, where they arrest her abuser. And they send Lisa to a center for runaway teens so he couldn't hurt her again. While she's there, Larry has the idea to let her look at a photo lineup. She may have not seen this man, but she felt his face. Maybe that's something. And so, based off of her feeling his face and the small glances that she got, the little gap in her blindfold, she's able to successfully identify her kidnapper in the lineup. And the last thing that Lisa has to do is find out where this man lives. And based on the car movements and the gap in her blindfold, Lisa's able to successfully take the police all the way back to this man's house. And that's when she finds out that the person who kidnapped her and was going to murder her was Bobby Joe Long. Now, Lisa learned that she was not the first on Long's victim list, because Bobby Joe Long was in fact a serial killer. He did not lie about that. And he had murdered 13 women prior to her. And he had raped over 50. And Lisa was one of 2 women ever to escape him. He was a divorcee who abused his wife on numerous occasions, and that's why she left him. And he felt very slighted by that. And when his wife pressed charges and he spent time in jail, it just increased his anger and his hatred for women. And he now felt like women owed him something. Bobby Joe Long was so proud of everything he did. He even admitted to being the classified rapist of 1981. 12 days from Lisa's escape, he had murdered 2 more women. And even after all this, people still doubt that Lisa escaped this madman or that he was even a serial killer at all, which makes no sense because the way that they connected him to his crimes, it's a concrete case. It's a concrete case. But there is one damning piece of evidence that nobody can deny. The red fiber that came off of Lisa when she went to the police for the follow-up and they took evidence from her came from Long's car. And it was found on every single victim as well. Long was found guilty for 10 murders, the kidnapping of Lisa, and he was sentenced to death. Lisa was able to move on with her life. She was able to move in with an aunt and uncle who loved her and gave her an actual good home. She graduated and then, surprise, surprise, she actually applied to the police academy and she did excellent. I mean, by the time that Bobby Joe Long was ready to be, or it was time for him to be executed, it was 2019 and Lisa Mcvey was and still is Master Sheriff Deputy with the Hillsborough County Sheriff Office. And as far as I know, her grandmother and her grandmother's boyfriend were both charged. But trying to find information on them is like trying to find a needle in the haystack. And there's no more information on her twin either. I'm just going to assume that the aunt and uncle also took her in and gave her a good home. And we're just going to say the grandmother and her boyfriend are in hell somewhere where they belong. But yeah, that is the story of Lisa Mcvey. That is the end of our story. If you really like this video and you like content like this where I make it more of a story mode rather than just ranting the information to you, let me know in the comments. Be sure to subscribe and I will see you guys next time. Bye.